All right, what is up? We're on time today. It's wonderful to see everybody. AP, Schlong, and myself, Holden. It feels like it's been like 5 years since we had our last NBA game, but it's back tonight. We got a 10-game slate. Last time I did a show for RPS was Sunday. We had a really big crowd for the Daytona 500, but I got pushed back. Hopefully everybody had a good time with that. Had a really good lineup there. But AP, good to see you, man. Talk to me. 10-game slate. What you been up to without the NBA?
Yeah, been heavily in the tennis streets. I didn't really like dive into NHL that much. I know Bryce was in the NHL streets, but it was tennis for me. I did a little NASCAR and a lot of just outside of other work, just working on the RPS content, finding ways to make things better. And so it was all-star break, but there was a lot going on. There was a lot of work that we were doing behind the scenes. So it's good to be back, though, and we have a fun slate. I think, Holden, I think pricing on this slate is really generous. I think there's a lot of good paths that we can go down, so it's going to be fun to break it down with you fellas.
Both sites? You think both sites are pretty soft?
I mean, I'll be honest and transparent. I'm more so on the DraftKings side. I still have to review FanDuel, but DraftKings-wise, I like where the pricing's at. Usually FanDuel, the pricing a little bit tougher.
Bryce, what's happening, dude? How was the All-Star game, or the All-Star weekend, I should say?
It was kind of a marathon. So I had a lot of fun. Probably had a couple too many drinks during the games. All-Star game. I mean, what else are you going to do besides sit there and I was drinking double makers Sprites the entire time. So that I was a little bit twisted by the end of the game, but that was fun. We had the East bet, played pretty heavy on the showdown slate, and I was just never playing captain. And then the dunk contest was super fun because our tickets were like 6 rows behind the basket, and they did the dunk and the 3-point contest on the same side of the court. I kind of figured they would do one on one side and one on the other, but it ended up all being on our side, so we kind of lucked out with that. And then All-Star break got pretty heavy in the NHL streets. I had a bunch of outs, and they all relied on the Kings, for that big $1 million GPP they had.
Mm-hmm.
And Kings had 5 goals, and they were just the nut low goals for me. I had one team that was out there at the end. I needed a third line goal, didn't get it, but it's what it is. Glad that NBA's back.
Hey, Bryce, I got a question for you, because I went into the NHL chat, a place that I rarely go. I'm never in, and I tilted everyone, made everyone upset. I said it was the nut worst sweat ever. If you're trying to follow your teams, and maybe it's because I just know nothing about the NHL, and I'm not going to watch it. I have no idea how to follow along. And then randomly scores get applied. Is that just how it is in NHL? Or I mean, how when you have the action that you had which was a lot of volume, how are you following along? How are you tracking it?
I use Flash Score. It's really good for soccer. It's good for tennis too. I'm sure you've used it for tennis before.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't really update the shots on goal and block shots as well, but it updates the goals as fast as they come. And you get to see who scored and who assisted right away. So that's kind of nice.
I'm with you there.
I think NHL is a super fun sweat live. I love going to NHL games. We just don't have a team here in Indy, so I never really go. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a super fun sport. It's just not it's not my favorite DFS sweat either.
It's a great sport to go to in person.
I was like, what's going on here?
Get myself off of mute there. It is a great sport to go in person. I think college basketball at a good school is great. NHL. And as far as the NBA crowds, I mean, what are there? Maybe 3 or 4 places in the NBA that are good to go watch regular season games at. For the most part, the fans just don't give a shit until the playoffs. So,
hey, speaking of Holden, speaking of college basketball, yeah. I never watched college basketball because Nebraska usually sucks. But Nebraska basketball school, basketball state now, Creighton and Nebraska likely to make the big dance. So things are fun here, and the state of the big corn.
It should be. I'm a complete debacle, by the way, guys, with this whole setup right now. As long as you can still see me, I guess that's all that matters. But yeah, I did not enjoy the break. Usually people enjoy the break. I did not enjoy it. I loved playing a little bit of college basketball. That was great. Usually I dabble in the NHL streets. I didn't. The Daytona 500, though, paid off really well. I don't know if you guys saw the show, but with who we had on, we had Stats, we had Big T. Whoever else was on that show is going to kill me. We had a fourth. Oh, boy.
Rubio?
Yeah. Rubio.
No, Dan.
Thank you for saving me.
Wait, for MMA? Oh, no. NASCAR.
For
Never
NASCAR.
mind.
And we slayed that slate. Like, I went 5X on that one. It was a very good one. But interesting point here. I enjoyed not having to care about NBA news from that's the one thing is I didn't have my notifications on. I didn't have to worry about that. It's the only positive that I'm not playing NBA for the last week. Literally the only thing.
I mean, if they took away late swap, we wouldn't have to worry about that, you know?
Do you want them to take away late swap?
I think it would benefit.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would benefit the casual player.
Yeah.
And,
I
I
think my edge goes down a bit, like personally, just because I think I'm better at late swapping than the field. But I mean, I would rather trade that for not having to spend my entire night on a computer, like every night.
I'll be honest, like, and I'll be transparent. Now I'm updating content and doing different things, and whenever I have to like go different places, I'm taking my laptop. But my son has competitive swimming each night, practice, and my daughter has competitive dance each night, and they're at different parts of the town. And so it's like my wife's one area and I'm the other area, and it's just sometimes I miss news, and it's really tough. But it is what it is.
Well, I think it would hurt the pros, no question. Like the super pros, you guys would get hurt. You'd still have an advantage because you're great.
That's
at
fine
it,
with me.
Yeah,
I'd rather give up like the slight edge that I think late swap gives me for like the ability to not have to lug around my computer for 6 months everywhere I go if I want to go do something. Like I kind of think it's trending in the no late swap direction personally. Like with them cutting down on the main slate sizing, I think that's kind of a prelude to like reintroducing no late swap. And it wouldn't surprise me if they try it like before the end of the year, at least one of the sites, to see like the feedback they get from their users and whatnot.
Yeah, they'll still leave the late swap, but they'll do because I don't know how long
it all depends what they make the feature GPPs for. Like because they still have late swap and non-late swap slates. It just depends on which one they want to feature.
I don't know how long you guys have been playing, but it used to be there was no late swap in the NFL. And that was kind of cool. You just build your lineup in the morning and you go watch the damn games.
They had late swap in NBA too. No late swap in NBA.
Swap, right.
And then everyone was, crying and bitching on Twitter, which I was probably part of that crowd. And I was younger at that time then too. Yes. My kids were smaller. They didn't have many things going on. So I'm partly to blame.
Yeah. I mean, back when I was 20, I've been playing since I was like 20. So about a decade now. I mean, I didn't have shit to do besides sit on my fucking computer.
No.
But I think no late swap would be better for, definitely the casuals, and then the pros that like want to like still have some semblance of a life during NBA season.
We have an honest discussion too. Like I think we're starting to get near a ceiling with DFS in a lot of these sports. And I think there's a few that are still growing. I think the one that could really grow more is NBA. And I think having no late swap would help there. I think golf is getting much more interesting. I think those are the two sports to me that still have growth potential. Because like how many more people are going to come play football every single season? How much are we growing NBA during the season? I think if we make it easier for casual players to play, then we're going to get more people in the space. AP.
Yeah, the issue is they don't know it. They think late swap helps them when it doesn't.
Yeah. The other thing too, though, is look at PGA this week. I think a lot of the flagship contests they filled up pretty quickly, and that was probably because like no NBA and people were probably on top of it, reserving stuff. But I know a lot of people that missed the flagship, $20, and it's a crap event. Like with Tony Finau as like the featured guy. So I don't think DFS is like dying or anything like that. I just think NBA is tough. And if you're not monitoring the news on a nightly basis throughout the night, you're probably not going to want to play it. And that's probably what we see with certain casual players.
DFS is not dying at all, but I think that they can still grow the NBA and the golf products. I think those are the two places where they really haven't tapped out yet. Because even from the betting markets, and the more I've been in the betting space here, is that I didn't know this. The NBA, it's the NFL, college football, and then the NBA is the third most bet on sport. I would think that it's the second biggest sport DFS wise, right? The NBA, it's not even close. Baseball and hockey are in the betting space. Baseball and hockey are kind of on the same plane now, like a distant third in the professional space.
No,
whereas
baseball is way above hockey. No offense to our hockey guys. Not in betting. DFS wise.
DFS
is. Schlong, like DFS wise, NHL, because I guess, look, I don't play NHL. I played 5 lineups the other night, but like compared to MLB is like the featured sport during
MLB has 6 figures nightly. Like, I mean, it was really good for NHL that they were able to run $1 million contest and fill it. Like, and it filled pretty easily. So like that was great for NHL. I mean, we have a great NHL product here at RPS. Mm-hmm. They just get kind of screwed because like there are so many other sports going on, like during hockey season. Like NBA will always trump hockey in America.
Yes,
that's just the way it is.
But then pretty soon we get baseball, basketball, and hockey.
We need more tennis like contests, and there's always enough like tennis matches going on for them to create like a different contest, because there's always like different leagues going on, and they can just like combine it into one. And I still think it's like one of the best sweats. Tennis is freaking awesome.
Tennis is like my favorite sport to sweat personally.
Yeah.
Really?
I think what they should do for tennis is they should push like the bigger ATP events more, like like the ATP thousands, like should all have like featured stuff. So then like instead of just having the majors, like then you get people interested in the ATP 1000 stuff, and then you get like the rest of the tournaments like starting, like people like get into it and then start to play.
Well, let's get into the slate here. How about that? It's time. We have tonight, just so you know, usually I'm doing the Up to Lock show. Tonight we'll have Big T and JSU, and they're going to do playback. If you don't know what that is, playback.tv, you got to sign up, but you can actually watch the games on your computer with the guys. You can sweat DFS. They'll kind of do like a quasi Up to Lock, a little bit of betting, do the live show stuff too. So that's coming up at 6:00. We are an hour away from that? 6:00.
Let me add one more thing to that too. So Big T and JSU, they've been doing a really great job of screen sharing, bringing up SaberSim, and building live lineups right there in playback, not playbook. And it's been excellent, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback to it. So if you haven't ever used SaberSim and you want to see what it looks like and what the process is to use it, make sure you catch that show later tonight.
All right. Very good. Let's get into it. We got a 10 gamer. A lot of news that we're still waiting on. Guys, I just got back in town, though, by the way. So if there's anything that I'm missing when I read this, but good news here. What is Sabonis has been upgraded to questionable. He was in shoot around today. We're waiting on news. Jalen Smith, Cam Reddish, Gary Payton, Christy Springer. I think we got the news on Springer, right? Bradley Beal is a big one tonight. Brandon Ingram is a big one. And then Paolo Banchero was downgraded to questionable. He's ill. Quentin Grimes is still doubtful. And then some big names out tonight. LeBron and LaMelo both out. Fultz is going to be out as well. And Van Vliet is back for the first time since February 4th. And we've got Jacques Vaughn out with the Nets. I don't know if we really need to talk about that today, but if you want, well, you know what? They're playing, so we might as well talk about possible impact. Then Darius Garland and Evan Mobley are full go. No more minutes limits for them. So let's get into this AP, and I'll start in the earlier game, 216.5 final. So, or total. That's gross. Magic, 7.5 points here. Dogs at the Cavaliers, like I just said. Paolo is questionable. Fultz is out. Donovan Mitchell's questionable, and a couple of big guys had their minutes limits lifted. So what do we want to do here with Mobley and Garland now that there's no restrictions, AP?
Yeah, so it's it's a big slate, and obviously the Paulo news is pretty massive. The matchup though is still tough. Like how I am playing this situation on the Magic side, if Paulo's out, so like what Orlando's doing is they're running everything through Paulo and Franz. Like this entire rotation is built around those two guys. However, from a matchup standpoint, like one, the Magic play slow, and it's not like Cleveland's playing that much faster. Cleveland, when Mobley and Allen are in there, they're just a juggernaut defensively, not a team that we want to really target, especially like Franz. When you think about his game, he's a guy that can just get to the rim at any time. And in these matchups where you have no rim protection, they're in the paint, it is a little bit tougher on a guy like Franz. I like the matchups that are far easier where you're facing teams that just have no rim protection at all. Like the Wizards, for example. Obviously, cherry picking there, that's an easy one. But with Paulo out, obviously more usage, more opportunity for Franz. I still don't think that I'm like forcing anyone in. I mean, from a pricing standpoint, like Jalen Suggs is fine, but we're going to talk about point guard and shooting guard. Tonight, it's loaded. I think there's a lot of really, really strong plays. I don't really want to like sacrifice one of those spots for a Jalen Suggs in a tough matchup. So my lean here is I'm underweight pretty much across the board on the Magic side. On the Cavs side, again, the Magic, not a team I really like to target just from a pace standpoint. But Darius Garland, I've been talking about, the price continues to come down, and it's kind of in that range where it feels a little bit trappy. But again, it's hard to ignore the 5.9K price tag. Now, I believe Donovan Mitchell is questionable. Yeah, but he made shoot around. But again, he's still questionable. I'm working under the assumption that he plays. But if he misses, then Darius Garland becomes like a really, really nice play. Maybe borderline, I don't want to say lock, but pretty close. There's another lock that I have on the slate, but the other play here for me is Mobley, 6,700, too cheap, and the guy is playing so good right now. So Evan Mobley, the main guy I have interest in. Franz if Paulo's out.
All right, what do you got here for Schlong? Game number one, maybe not the sexiest total-wise, but can you find some pieces?
Yeah, I mean, you get Mobley and Garland off a minutes limit at 5'9" and 6'7", and they're both pretty cheap on FanDuel, and Mobley has the stock upside there too. I think those guys are two of the better plays of the slate on both sides. If Mitchell were to miss, I'd probably lock Garland personally. I think 5'9" is. I know there's a lot of good guards that we want to play tonight, but that's just way too cheap without Mitchell for me. I mean, even if Mitchell's in, he's a good play, and I'm going to have a good amount of Garland. So Cleveland secondary pieces, you can mix and match some. None really stand out to me, but I'm not going to take them out of the GPP pool. Guys like LeVert, Strus, etc. would become much more interesting to me if Mitchell was ruled out here. And this is news you'll get as it's a 7 p.m. game. Moving over to Orlando, it's kind of it's really tough to break the team down just because, if Banchero plays, and I'm kind of assuming that all these guys play coming off the All-Star break. Like, the only way that Banchero's sick is that he drank too much and partied too hard after the All-Star game and just kind of went on a little bit of a bender. I know we've all been there, so hopefully he suits up tonight. I'd rather not have to jam in some of this Orlando value in a really tough matchup, but if he sits guys who benefit the most, like Jonathan Isaac, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, I think Suggs would get a huge uptick in usage here. So it's kind of dependent on Banchero, and tough to break down without him. But if he's in, GPP only on all these plays for me, besides maybe Suggs.
All right. Easy, simple as that. I want to remind you again to the subscribers, it'll be free tonight, so anybody can get in on Up to Lock, Big TJSU, Playback.tv. A lot of things going on there. And hit the like button. You get a second as the NBA is back. Everybody should be in a good mood, too. Everybody should be in a really good mood since things are back. Let's go. Game number 2 to get into, AP. Pistons, Pacers. So apparently now the Pistons are actually going to play to win. That's interesting because Monty said that he's done playing combinations. I kind of know what that means, AP, because he was just trying to find guys that could play. Now he's just trying to win a couple of games so his feelings aren't hurt. They got the Pacers in Indy tonight. 246.5 total, monster total tonight. We will have Cade Cunningham in all likelihood. Waiting on Jalen Smith news. Isaiah Stewart is out for 3 games? Is that what Woj said? So, yeah, 3 game suspension. What was it for, Schlong? Because I just saw the headlines. Do you either one of you know what it was for? He's just suspended.
I just saw he was suspended 3 games.
Yeah,
over it.
What do you do?
So he punched Drew Eubanks. Like I don't think we know the details, but in the hallway.
I remember that now. So that happened just before the break. He popped him in the face.
Yeah, must say. I mean, I haven't seen any pictures. I guess I haven't actively looked, but yeah, he definitely put assault charges dropped. So there you go. Good stuff.
I mean, it's the best case scenario. You get 3 games. You miss a paycheck, but you're not going to jail, which is kind of nice. All right, so break this one down for us. Again, Monty's trying to win games, and Halliburton's back to where he needs to be. How many plays from the Indiana side first?
Going to meet or no?
AP,
Go to Bryce.
AP. I'm sorry, AP. I said your name. My bad.
So yeah, that quote is interesting. I mean, Monty played 13 guys against the Suns. 100 to 116. Who knows what he was doing? I mean, if you go back the last 2 games, I don't think the Pistons have had multiple players play guys over 30 minutes. So it really depends on how you do you believe Monty? If you do, then it means I would take that as them tightening up the rotation. When you look at their bench pieces, not very good pieces. I mean, Marcus Sasser, he's shown some bright spots in the season. Evan Fournier's been one of the key guys off the bench the last 2 games since they acquired him. Actually played 24, 25 minutes. Usage has been decent. The opportunity there, especially when you factor in his price. Outside of that, I don't trust a lot in the bench pieces here. And so if you think they run a tight rotation, I would assume that's a lot of Cade, a lot of Jaden Ivey, Oscar Thompson, Fontecchio, and then Jalen Duren. So I think they're fine tournament plays. Obviously, I'm limiting to 3 max per team for all teams tonight. I really don't know if I can trust Monty Williams. I think Cade Cunningham, point guards against this Pacers team, has been fine. They play obviously with Halliburton back. It's a team that plays with a lot of pace. And Cade Cunningham, 7,600, he would be the guy. And then Jalen Duren, bigs against this Pacers team too, is a theme that we've often played. So I just don't know if I trust it. So I'm curious to see what Bryce says. And then on the other side of this game, Mathurin should get the start here. I know last game it was when Aaron Nesmith went down, it was Doug McDermott that came in, but Mathurin wasn't available for that game. He was out for that game. I think Mathurin starts. I do think TJ McConnell and Doug McDermott play a role off the bench. But again, Jalen Smith, if he plays, it muddies things up because they have Isaiah Jackson, Obi Toppin, Jalen Smith. I mean, there's a lot of dudes that Rick Carlisle can play, and I never trust his rotation. But Halliburton, off his minutes limit, 9,400 in this matchup, a phenomenal play. I like him. I like Mathurin. And then Miles Turner, I think, is a strong play as well.
All right, very good. Let's get your thoughts on this one in your backyard. Schlong, maybe you could start with Detroit since I had him start with the Pacers. What do you think about Detroit tonight? Is there anybody where we can go out of our way to jam in, or can we just ignore them if we need to?
Depends. As AP said, it depends how much you want to trust Monty Williams here. I would probably stick to the 6 main guys that he mentioned, the starting 5, and start out on them. Thompson, Fontecchio, Ivy, Duran, Cunningham. Yeah, just pretty much the starting 5. It would be who I'd go after here. I don't think Evan Fournier is the absolute worst play at 3,400 if you need someone super cheap. I mean, it's a really good total. I like the Indiana side better on this game. Mathurin's going to be probably the highest owned player on the slate as of now at 4,500. That's way too cheap. With the trades they made before the deadline and before the All-Star break, you didn't really get to see Mathurin's new role, but it's going to be good. They did it to kind of feature him. I think Halliburton's a really strong tournament play. I've seen, sub 10% on him, in a 246 total off a minutes limit at 9,400. Sign me up for Tyrese all day at that price. I think Miles Turner's a very strong play. I think Andrew Nembhard's a strong play, especially if like some of these Pacers guys are out, and Carlisle has to run the condensed rotation. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to like in this game, actually.
All right, guys and girls, like button would be absolutely wonderful. We'd appreciate that. RPS 15. If you do want to sign up, check out the package right now because the NBA is back. We got that. And the aforementioned NHL, golf, tennis. You think of a sport that DraftKings and FanDuel give out, and we're going to take care of you as far as information and winners as well. So like button would be nice. RPS 15 is the coach. Long, I'll come to you first then. On our next game, Knicks at the Sixers. Total crept up from 227 and now 228, 228 and a half. So it's not a monster total, but how about the Knicks first? Because Jalen Brunson, what a hell of a year he's having. I don't know if he would have been doing all this in Dallas, but I do know that the guy is doing all this with the Knicks, and we want any Brunson tonight, Schlong.
I think Brunson's in play here. I think the Knicks are priced up a little too high for my liking. Even with Randall and OG out, I just struggle to pay some of these prices for these guys. It's a 10-game slate. I think this is one of the uglier games here. And, for me, the game is, for the most part, as of now, somewhat of a pass. I trickle in the studs a bit, like Maxey, Brunson, but I don't know, Dante at 8K, even if he gets you 40, you kind of need 50 at that price today. I don't love that play. I mean, Precious is all the way up to 7-1. Hartenstein, I'd expect to play. He's listed as probable. He's 6.8. Josh Hart, and you got Bog there now too. You got Burks there now too, soaking up some minutes. You got McBride off the bench. This game's just kind of a pass for me. I'm still going to keep the guys in my pool, but I don't really see any of them being over 5% for me.
All right, so maybe you could start with the Philly side here. AP, Maxey, Reed, Buddy Hield. We got some new faces in there. Any interest in this game? And let's start with Philly.
No, I mean, it's a big slate. There's a lot of really nice spots. I'm with Bryce hand in hand. He broke it down perfectly. This is a pass for me, full pass on both sides. I did leave Jalen Brunson in my player pool just because he's kind of like these guys with a lot of upside. One thing that I'm learning is just don't X him out, leave him in there. Give him a fair projection. And even the projection I don't like, the projection I currently have on Jalen Brunson, the eye test, I don't think he's going to land in a lot of lineups. But when you factor in the Sims, with Saber Sim, if the ownership is low enough, there could be some situations where Jalen Brunson sneaks in. So he's the one guy from this game that I left in my player pool. Outside of that, I'm pretty much fading everyone in this game. It's a pricing thing. The prices tight. We like the Knicks tight rotation, but pricing is finally adjusted. So it's just very difficult for these guys to pay off their tags.
For those of you that are subscribers, that before we really get into the slate, I have JSU just break down. I say, all right, which games are you interested? Let's cross out the games that we don't like. And it sounds like the Knicks and the Sixers is one of those games for you, AP. And it really didn't sound like Schlong was high on this one either, unless you're going to dig up a gem or two, huh?
No, Brunson, Maxey, kind of my two favorite plays here. I always leave the studs in. There's just way better value available.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: CW89 in the chat. Stars and scrubs or balanced? What's popping now? Come on, we're still waiting on news. What's popping now?
You can go pretty stars and scrubs, but with the scrubs, you don't have to go into the 3K range. You got a lot of good 4K guys here. We'll get to the Jazz in a bit, but the Jazz are egregiously priced on this slate, in my opinion. You got Darius Garland at 5'9", so I guess that would consider more of like a 1-star, and then a bounce build type of build would be like my favorite route to go tonight.
All right, very good. Moving on to I believe it's our fourth game. It'll be the Nets and the Raptors. So before we even really dive into this, there's no more Jacques Vaughn. So you guys, do we have to feel out what the rotations are? Do things usually say the same? Either one of you guys have any thoughts on that with a coaching change?
You typically don't see like immediate rotation changes. They kind of gradually happen. A good example that I can give you is with the Wizards. We're finally seeing it with Washington. DeLon Wright, obviously we'll talk about that game, but like I was calling for, DeLon Wright would be a DNP here shortly. He played 2 minutes last game. So tonight probably doesn't see the court unless it's like a blowout. So those things typically happen gradually unless they announce something. But the Nets were terrible, Holden. Like they lost, Boston beat them by 50, 60 points? I mean, it was.
Well, Jacques Vaughn is
terrible.
guy. We went to college together. I was doing stuff. He was doing stuff. He was great at Kansas. But Cam Thomas said he thought it was a prank when he learned about it too. He's like, I thought it was a prank. He didn't see it coming. So, oh well, let's get into this one then. Schlong, I'm going to start with you. Nets Raptors 231 total. Looks like everybody's good to go for Toronto and Brooklyn as well. We just don't have injuries that we have to deal with. So that's good. Talk to me here, Schlong. What about the Nets and Raptors? Anything we're digging up?
Yeah, I like this game. You get some fairly friendly price tags. I think there is a slight element of risk with Brooklyn. Like new coach comes in and is like, oh, Cam Thomas sucks. I'm just not going to play him quite as much. Or like, I really like Ben Simmons. Maybe, we get him off this minutes limit. He's not on the injury report anymore. So, with a new coach, I think Simmons is actually, and I probably regret saying this, a decent guy to take a shot on in tournaments and be overweight the field. He hasn't played over 24 minutes. He's always produced in his career. He's only 5'6". And then on FanDuel, he can rack up some stocks for you. Cam Johnson, it seems okay. I think the safest guys here are by far Bridges, Cam Thomas, and Claxton. And then, the guys with a little more risk would be like Simmons, Schroeder, Dennis Smith. Cam Johnson, I don't think there's a ton of risk to like his minutes, but, he's just not the most, like, I don't want to say like upside forward player in the NBA. Toronto, I want to see Kelly Olynyk get a bigger role here because I think he'd be really good, but I just don't really see it happening. I'm kind of sticking towards like a Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, quickly, and even Podol type of guy. Them acquiring Olynyk hasn't hurt him as much as I thought they would. Like he can still pop off for a big game. Most of these guys are tournament plays only for me, but I pretty much think the entire starting five is like viable in tournaments here.
All right, let's go, AP. What do you got? You have any interest in the Nets tonight to start?
So, like on the surface, this Toronto Raptors team just hasn't been as good defensively, but at the same time, like I struggle to trust the Nets right here, and it could burn me. It definitely could burn me. I find myself being currently underweight across the board on the Nets and Raptors in this game entirely. Like Pirtle, 6'3", I left him in the player pool. RJ, I left a lot of these guys in the player pool. I just don't know how much I'm going to get of them. Like Gary Trent, like he just feels trappy. He's typically raw scoring dependent, not a high usage player. You're not going to get a lot of peripheral stats. But then the price of 4K, like if your projection on him is too high, you're probably going to get him landing in quite a few lineups. So he's someone I definitely want to limit. I'm kind of like my stance here is just like I'm taking a wait and see approach. And if it burns me, it burns me. But I did lead like the Ben Simmons is interesting because he's 5'6". The matchup's fine. If he played like 30 minutes, I would have interest. But man, I really hate playing this guy and guards loaded. I agree with Bryce that he's a large field tournament play. I don't think I'm going to be getting there.
All right, just a little bit of news. Jalen Smith news. We just got that. We got Batum news. We got D'Anthony Melton is out. Batum should be back tonight. And Jalen Smith back to the Pacers. He's available to play tonight too. So a little bit of news. Schlong, you want to chime in here? Nets Raptors, we're all good? All good. Beautiful. Let's move on to our next game. Like button would be great while we're at it. And we'll go to the Suns and the Mavericks. So 245 total. Schlong, how about Dallas? Like, do you ever stray away from the two studs when they're healthy? It's like it's Irving, it's Luka. Like, is there really any reason to go anywhere else on Dallas right now? And then obviously let's get the breakdown from the Phoenix side. We're waiting on Brad Beal news.
6K for Gafford's a little too much for me. I could see like 4.9 for like a Josh Green type of guy. I don't think it's like the worst play, but yeah, I mean, it's Luka, Kyrie, and bust for the most part with Dallas. He always seems to have beef with the Suns too. So I think Luka's my favorite spend of the day on DraftKings if you can get to him. 12-1's a pretty tough tag to get to, but we do have some decent value on the slate, so it's definitely doable. The Suns are kind of the same way for me. It's kind of stick to the big three. As long as Beal's not out, like if Beal was out, like I think you give like Grayson Allen, like Eric Gordon, like a type of shout. But yeah, I mean Nurkic is whatever. I don't really love him at 6'6" today. He hasn't really been getting the minutes. I'm not going to take him out of my pool, but this game's mainly play the studs, find value elsewhere.
What do you got here, AP? Little Suns Mavericks breakdown. Maybe you could start with the Suns then, because just Booker's the guy I'm looking at right now, and we're still waiting on that Beal news.
Yeah. So, massive slate tonight, and actually a massive slate tomorrow, Friday. And the Suns there's going to be a lot of teams front end of the back-to-back. The Suns are one of those teams. So I do think it's a true questionable spot. Now, you would think that you would want Brad Beal for the Mavericks. They have Houston tomorrow. It could be one of those things where Brad Beal sits tonight. Maybe it's a Devin Booker or Kevin Durant sits tomorrow. We don't really know in today's NBA, but this is news that I think is extremely interesting. The Mavericks, obviously, when Luka and Kyrie are playing, a good team to target. Pace is going to be good. Big total here. Obviously, the history between these two teams, like Devin Booker, he's had some monster games. Luka Doncic on the other side, I fully with Bryce on that one. Like such a great spend if you can find the salary relief to get him. Like 12-1, that's going to cap his ownership for sure on the slate, and he's put up some monster numbers against his Suns team. So I see a lot of points being scored here. And if Brad Beal's out, I mean, it just elevates Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. Obviously, Eric Gordon slides in the starting lineup. We've seen Grayson Allen have more ball handling roles in these situations as well. So it just elevates and upgrades the Suns side that much for me. But Devin Booker in that scenario would become, I think, a really, really strong tournament play at 9-8. I can't see how people play him at 9-8 today. And I definitely want a piece in this matchup. So this is the game where you target the studs if you're playing it. Like, I don't think you have to play it, but if you do, target the studs, the peripheral pieces, under project, or just, fade. And I would include PJ Washington into that as well. The thing about PJ Washington is price is like trappy, in my opinion, at 5,200. On this Mavs team, he is truly like raw scoring dependent. It's hit your threes. And he's actually been struggling shooting three-pointers this year as well. So he could get going. He could hit his stride, but really it's the Luka and Kyrie show. Everyone else on this team is going to have a really low usage rate.
You guys, no, Luka and Booker, they're not fans of each other. They're not. There's a beef. I think it started, was it the Western Conference? It was in the playoffs a few years ago. You guys know what happened between Luka and Booker and why they don't like each other?
I forget exactly what it was, but these teams don't like each other.
Just the teams in general, right?
It's specifically Luka and Booker, but it's extended to the teams as a whole not liking each other.
Yeah, AP. You know anything about it? The origins? I'm sure someone in the chat's going to throw it in there, but
I don't know the origin story, but I just know they don't like each other.
So I just found
they may have squashed the beef. Who knows? I mean, I'm
sure
they're fine.
Booker goes, we got smoke. Okay. I don't have smoke with anybody. You got smoke with anybody, AP? Do you have a rival?
Me? No.
Yeah. What about you, Shlong? Do you have smoke with anybody you'd like to get off your chest right now?
Not really. Booker stayed at my buddy's place over the All-Star game. He Airbnb'd it out.
Were you upset at him for doing that? Did you have smoke with him?
No. He paid him fucking $10,000 a night.
Luka is Booker's biological father.
There you go. There you
go. All right, hit the like button. Let's get those numbers up here. We will continue breaking these games down for you here at Run Pure Sports. Celtics Bulls is our next one, AP. 225.5 is the total. Celtics favored by 9 on the road. They're healthy. I don't know if you want to play any Chicago pieces against the Boston here. So to me, it doesn't look sexy. Maybe you can dig something up for us, AP.
No, yeah, I have this game as I'm pretty much like, again, it's a big slate. You can't play everyone. This is one of those games that I just don't have a ton of interest in, especially with when Boston's healthy. It's a lot of mouths to feed, and everyone is priced appropriately. I will say Drew Holiday, like at the start of the season, I just wasn't playing him. I've started playing him a little bit more. It's a tough spot tonight, but the price tag continues to come down. I see a little bit of value. It's basically like Darius Garland, like very, very similar to me right now when you look at their price tag. So there's risk there for sure, but I do think he's the guy that I'm keeping in my tournament player pool because I'm showing no ownership on him as well. So 6,200, Drew Holiday. Could he go in there and rack up peripheral stats, make some buckets? He definitely could. But, man, I really struggle to get to Boston here. And then the Bulls, I don't like this matchup for them. Kobe White, 7,800, no thank you. Even like DeRozan, 7,600. I mean, if he beats me, he beats me. But I'm off the Bulls here.
Stick a fork in this game. Just you can always play Tatum. You can always play. By the way, Jaylen Brown and slam dunk contest, Shlong. Come on. He says he'll do it again. He literally said, fuck it. I'll do it again if they ask me. But what are we doing here? Like outside of Mac McClung, the dunk contest has been dead.
I mean, they just want guys like who have a name. Like Jaylen Brown's like one of the bigger names in the NBA. Like he's actually playing in the All-Star game. So like, I'm sure the NBA was like super happy to have him in it over like a Jaime Jaquez. So I thought the dunk contest was pretty interesting. I like Mac McClung. I think that was the one bet we hit on Twitter. I crowdsourced some bets on Twitter and we hit them. So I'd do some sort of a $250 giveaway here. I just didn't realize that you couldn't see who voted for each option in the poll. So I have no idea who to do the giveaway for. But to get back to the game, I think Ayo Dosunmu is too cheap. $5K for him, I think, a pretty solid price. He's going to be playing minutes. I think especially the second half of the season, and he has a pretty solid role. I know it's a tough matchup, but I think him and Vooch would be my two favorite plays on the Chicago side. DeRozan toss in there. I think Kobe White's a little too expensive. Boston side, my typical way to attack them is, leave the starting five in my pool, let the Sims go to work. I doubt I'll be over, definitely won't be over 10% on these guys. I'll probably hit them all around 5. Tatum might creep above there, but, they're not like the worst plays, but they're not like good plays. One of them can go out and have a monster game, but, the way it normally works out is they all have pretty solid games and none of them really go nuts until they have some injuries.
All right. Very good. Like button, RPS 15. And then I want is the code if you want 50% off your first payment. And again, it's been really good. And I know we had a few guys that were in the chat earlier talking about how they won money on the NASCAR streets after watching our show with Rubio, Stats, Big T, and myself. I really did not add too much to that show besides for making sure they didn't go off on a tangent. But The sports have been really good, and I don't like it when some of us call you freeloaders, but for those of you that have not subscribed before, dip your toe in the water. Just throw it in there for a month, see what happens. Baseball starting up. We got spring training games today, I believe. So baseball get going. Our baseball team is absolutely sensational. Back with the NBA, 2/3 of the season is done, but we'll go all the way through the NBA finals in showdown, NASCAR, tennis, NHL. It's all here. Golf, it's all here at RPS. So make sure your dream did not come true. That's too bad. There's nothing I can do about having you standing in the middle of 40 naked men being there. There's literally nothing I can do for you. So I apologize for that, but you should try harder next time. Schlong, the Rockets and the Pels. So we get to see Fred VanVleet for the first time since the 4th of February. He's been a little banged up. Jabari Smith is always a guy that I know JSU and I talk about all the time. He loves him. Brandon Ingram on the other side with New Orleans. He is questionable. Cody Zeller is questionable as well. So let's break it down for us. A 230.5 total. To me, maybe some GPP options, but not as much here, Schlong. How much are you investing in the Rockets and the Pels?
Well, I've been over on Sengun all season, and I'm going to continue to be over him. If Sengun's 4%, I'm playing 10%. That's just the way it's been all year for me. I'm a Sengun believer. I think Fred VanVleet, at 6,700 without anyone on him, I think that's a really solid play, actually. Other than those two, I don't have tons of interest in the Rockets here. As far as the Pelicans go, a healthy Pelicans team, I'm still going to play some Ingram. I'm still going to play some McCollum. You've seen their offense switch more to Zion being more of a ball handler. So I kind of like Zion a bit here. His fat ass is going to have to play more in the second half of the season. That maybe he took the break to get into shape. I'm trying to stay positive with Zion, so I don't mind him. I think Herbert Jones is a solid value play at 4-6, but it's kind of the big three and Herb Jones for me on the Pels, and then Houston, just kind of the big two, Fred VanVleet and Sengun.
AP, do you want to defend Zion Williamson, or is it just all over? Is he just too fat? He's going to be out of the league soon. And Mariah Mills was right.
No, I think he's going to be a great play tonight. So you do got to keep an eye on some news here. Brandon Ingram, questionable, missed shoot around or missed practice, which I think is pretty concerning, obviously with an illness. And I'm telling you, the flu, if it's a flu, that flu going around is absolutely nasty. That's what DC's out. I had it a couple weeks back. It's brutal. So if he has that, there's a good chance he misses. And if he misses, Zion is going to be a phenomenal play. Trey Murphy is a guy that I would bump up. Again, it's back to that late swap discussion. If you're keeping track of things and if you're able to be at your computer, this is something to highlight. It's something to make note of because of Brandon Ingram. That is a huge piece right there when you look at it from a minutes usage standpoint in this Pelicans rotation. You would then want to consider, if he gets ruled out, Trey Murphy. But then it's even like Najee Marshall could have a bigger role. Like Herb Jones his minutes could be more solidified. But Zion Williamson, from a matchup standpoint, he's a top flow chart play today. If you're a member, go look at the flow chart. He's highly on there, and I would just increase him even more if Ingram was out. So I do like the Pelican side of this game. The Fred VanVleet mention is interesting. The price tag feels a little bit too low. Keep an eye on the starting lineup too. Amon Thompson was awesome. Maybe just as good or better than Jalen Green. I mean, who knows what they do? So you could see the Rockets switch things up. I think the Rockets are a fade, though. I just think pricing, they're getting healthier. Like, I can't play Dylan Brooks. The one exception, Şengün. I definitely think you could play him. He's just an absolute beast, but I find myself under on the Rockets side here.
All right, gentlemen, we got 3 games to go. If you are a subscriber and you're looking for our Up to Lock show, tonight will be free. You got to download or sign up for playback.tv. Big T, JSU, it'll be a little up to lock there. They'll give you the news. They'll break down SaberSim, our optimizer, which I finally learned how to use in a couple of sports. And believe it or not, it's made me a better player. So that helps out. We do that. And they'll also talk a little bit about betting for tonight's games and probably talk about the Clippers and the Thunders from the DFS and betting side. So AP Thunder 235.5 total, hosting a Clippers team, which is just playing really great basketball heading in here. For OKC, I mean, is there much besides for SGA and Williams? And then on the other side of things, with the Clippers, Zubac playing a bit more, maybe he's back in the low 30s minutes wise. Is this an attractive game to you DFS wise, AP?
Yeah, so we can actually OKC is definitely attackable with opposing bigs, power forwards. So for me, it's Zubac. I think Zubac's in a really sneaky spot. I think Kawhi Leonard, another guy. The price tag. Like the thing about the Clippers, they're healthy, and it's a lot of mouths to feed, kind of like what we talk about with Boston. But Kawhi Leonard, 8,700. I like the matchup for him. I really like the spot for Zubac, mainly for tournaments. There's obviously a lot of risk with him, but when you look at it, I mean, Pirtle recently 43 piece against them. Sabonis is obviously an absolute beast, but a 60 piece. We've seen a few of these opposing bigs get it done against this OKC team, and power forwards too. Like Aaron Gordon, he absolutely smashed 54 piece. Recently. So those would be the two guys that I would be looking at. James Harden is really, been impressive too. 8,900, he feels fairly priced, but if you get a back and forth close game, that's where I think there's far more value in your James Hardens, your Kawhi Leonard, and Zubac. So it's OKC favored by one. This is like the game, in my opinion, one of the games definitely to watch tonight. Close spread. Good total, should be good pace, good basketball. And on the other side, I'm struggling. I can't play Chet. The rotation, the Thunder rotation is still a little bit tricky. SGA is fairly priced. But again, he's always going to be in play for me as far as tournament goes. I think I would rather try to spend up or down. So up to Luka or down to Tyrese Halliburton. But I don't think I'm fading SGA. He's definitely in the player pool. I just don't know how much I'm going to get in this matchup. So to finish it up, I think Zubac, definitely the sneaky play here, 5,400. I'm not showing a lot of ownership.
Where are you on Zubac tonight, third and Schlong?
In the pool, I think my initial run had 5 or 10%. So that's definitely going to be over the field. I think he's going to come in sub 5. I don't really see anyone in this game being popular. Going over OKC first. I kind of like Jalen Williams at 7K. He seems like one of the better, safer rotational players here, and I think he's really good at basketball personally. So I like him at 7. SGA, I've been overweight on him all season. He's kind of like a Sengun type of guy. He's always in the weird spot between the really high price studs and the cheaper studs. So he always comes in super low owned. So, you don't have to do tons to get over on him. Chet, don't love him here. Giddey, don't love him here. You're adding Gordon Hayward to the mix here. So, I mean, I don't really know what that's going to do to the rotations. It's certainly not going to help. But yeah, I mean, SGA and Jalen seem like the safe plays on OKC to me. I'm moving over to the Clippers side. Bigs have crushed Chet this year, so I don't mind Zubac. And then of the big three, I'd rank them Kawhi, Harden, then George. But yeah, none of them are primary plays for me. AP had a really good comparison to Boston, where it's just a ton of mouths to feed. So, guys that are going to be in my pool, but not primary plays.
Okay. I thought Bobby Hare had an interesting, I know Daily Fantasy Sports was talking about Russell Westbrook here. He goes, this is what Bobby Hare in his playbook today. For those of you that aren't familiar with the playbook, one of our guys goes through every single game, breaks down every single team, just about every single player in there. It's remarkable stuff. Here's what Bobby Hare said about Westbrook. He goes, he's under 6K on DK. He's under 1% owned, I don't think he gets there, but I burn money on dumber things. So that's a rousing endorsement of playing Russell Westbrook tonight by our own Bobby Hare. You do the playbook sometimes, AP. It's a lot, man. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beast, absolute beast. So it's a good piece of content. That's one of the pieces of content that we're looking just to highlight, make a little bit better. That was part of the survey process. And I know some of these people are watching, but I appreciate everyone that filled out the survey that I sent out. Obviously, I asked a lot of questions, so it was a beast, absolute beast to fill that thing out. So appreciate everyone that filled that out for me.
You did not send me a questionnaire, though, AP. I was a little disappointed.
No, it was for members only. Holden,
well, I'm a member, aren't I?
You're an employee.
Yeah.
And a member. Did you ask them who their favorite people were? Because I would have just wrote myself a whole bunch. And then if they would have asked me who I don't like, there's a lot of people.
That's why I didn't get sent to employees, Holden.
Oh, because I would have said bad things about our coworkers.
Like if Steve anyone's saying bad things, it's probably you.
DC, stop it, you donkey. You stop being fake sick and just do your goddamn shows and stop having me work all the time.
Are you
actually I went to him today. I said, hey, dude, I'm going to go do the show anyways. I miss working. It's been a week since we had NBA. But
so we got they're the Nets just announced their starters: Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Nick Claxton. So Cam Johnson will come off the bench. For anyone that's curious.
Yeah, it probably just eliminates Cam Thompson for me. DFS has super low usage rate, so I think it kind of helps the rest of the starters there a bit.
James, I sent a message in NBA chat. I kept it to 12 people because I told everyone that would do it, I would send them money to get coffee as well. So I wanted to cap it at 12, so I wasn't overextending myself there.
Nobody got a survey here. I think you're lying, AP. Steven didn't get a survey.
You had to be in Discord. James and I sent a message out.
Holden didn't get a survey.
Exactly. Well, Holden, you wouldn't get one anyway. So
again,
it is what it is.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
Holden, I'll buy you a cup of coffee when I see you, so you stop.
I don't need a cup of coffee. I got enough coffee here.
Look, if you really want to fill it out, I can't guarantee. No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking.
I want to fill out the survey, AP.
No, hell no. You don't get it. You do not get it, Holden. But no, if you want to give some feedback, and if you're curious about what I was asking, and if you're a member, and if your name isn't Holden, shoot me a message in the Discord, and I will get it to you.
See, Brian did one. It is total bullshit. And Corey Holt.
Holden is James. Is that your burner account, James?
Corey Holt was just bored, and he was just like,
how many burners do you think Holden has on a show that he's just typing on his phone the whole time?
7 to 12 on any given show. I would have as many burners as possible if I knew how to create them. So we just have a lot of issues here with that. We got a couple games to get to still. Wizards Nuggets. So I didn't know this till this morning. Nikola Jokic has a triple-double against every single team in the league except for the Wizards. So maybe tonight is the night that Jokic gets his triple-double there. He averages 39, 13, and 8 across the last 3 against Washington. Denny Avdija's been playing well, 43 points in the Wizards last game against the break. He's got 20+ in 4 straight. He's filling things up just a little bit. Total here, 23 or 232.5. I think the blowout thing is legitimate risk, AP. Obviously, it's a blowout risk here, but sometimes you got to look past that and see what guys can get done in 3.5 quarters. And I think the Nuggets can get there. Jamal Murray's back. KCP is back. Livers is out for the Wizards. And outside of that, let's get a breakdown, AP, of Washington and Denver.
So a couple interesting things. I'm going to go out there and say I think the Wizards cover the spread tonight. I know it's very difficult to play in Denver, but the Nuggets, they've dropped 3 straight. This break was probably really good for them. And the Wizards finally consolidating the rotation. They have been very competitive. The games against the Mavs and Pelicans and 76ers and against Boston and actually against Cleveland were all actually really close games that they lost late in the 4th. So we've seen them tighten up the rotation. They still suck defensively, but you're seeing really good play from Denny Avdija, Tyus Jones, even Jordan Poole played good last game. And look, against the Pels, they didn't have Kyle Kuzma. it was Tyus Jones, Denny Avdia, Jordan Poole, Marvin Bagley pretty much holding it down. Corey Kispert has been awesome off the bench. But we're done with the Delon Wrights. And, like, he's basically out of the rotation. Now, and Rashawn Holmes probably going to be the same thing here soon. So I actually love this game. Mainly Jokic, though. The other thing, too, and I always look up these random stats. But if you go back, I was curious. So I looked at the last 2 years. I wanted to see how do these teams play kind of after this All-Star break. And again, it's like this stat probably makes, like, no sense at all and doesn't hold any weight. But Jokic has put up some monster numbers in the last 2 games post All-Star break, like 70 pieces, I believe, in both. And the matchups weren't even good matchups. So Jokic, box score lurkers, they're going to look at that and see a 35 piece, 35, 56, 49, 59, 53. It's been a long time since we've seen a ceiling Jokic game. I think it comes tonight. Part of that, though, and how you get different is play a run back, play Tyus Jones, play maybe even a Jordan Poole. Like I like Tyus, though. I think Tyus is definitely the guy. 6,100. He's been awesome, and he's getting a ton of minutes right now. I mean, look at his assists. Like, the assist rate has been absolutely insane. Double-digit assists last 2 games. Very close. The last 6 games, though, 8, 9, 9 assists. So he is absolutely racking up the peripheral stats. He's running this offense much more efficiently. And it's very similar to what I saw with the Grizzlies. Go back to last season. Tyus Jones, in my opinion, was awesome on that Memphis team. He had chemistry with those guys, and he was allowed to run that offense. I think we're starting to see that now, and it's being reflected, from a DFS standpoint. So 6,100 Tyus Jones. I like that combination there, a little mini stack there with Nikola Jokic on the other side. And I think we're going to see some flame emojis in this game. So I think it's going to be a good one.
How much Joker are you going to have tonight, Schlong, if any?
I'm always playing Joker. I don't think I've ever – I mean, I never leave the studs out of my pool. Like, I'll go ham on the cheap guys, kind of rotate the studs is the way I play. So I think Joker – I'll have more on DraftKings than FanDuel just because, FanDuel's a little hard to play these center-only guys, super heavy, just because, there's always, a lot of good center plays. But on DraftKings, I think my first run had 15%, which was pretty much in line with the field. So I like Jokic here. Match up against the Wizards is about as good as it gets. I mean, he's probably going to get you 80 if it stays close. Even if it doesn't stay close, he can easily drop a 70 burger for you in 3 quarters. So, that's just kind of the way it is playing the Wizards. If you think the game blows out, you could easily limit to one Denver guy, but not eliminate him from your pool. That would just kind of because these guys can still get there in 3 quarters, even on a 10-game slate. I think Michael Porter's a decent play. I think Gordon's a decent play. I think Jamal Murray's a decent play. It's the Wizards, especially these guys at cheaper price tags can get there. I like AP's Tyus Jones shout a bit. He would be my favorite Wizard here. If you really wanted to get crazy, you could play Marvin Bagley. If he doesn't get into foul trouble against Jokic, I do think he has some upside for 5K here. So that would be my way off the board Wizards play. They probably need someone to keep it close though. If Jokic is going to have an absolute monster game with how big of a slate it is. So I don't mind the idea of if it's Jokic, force a run back type of deal. And I don't normally do that.
Sorry about that, Schlong. Hey, AP, before we end the show here, we got one more game to get to, and then about 10, 15 minutes away from Big T and JSU up to lock on playback. Can I share the heat map today, and you could talk about it a little bit, just another cool tool that we have? Can I throw it up here?
Yeah. Feel free. Throw it up.
Let's go do that real quick because you get a lot of cool stuff here at RPS with your membership. And obviously I got to get out of the overlay. That'll happen sometime in the near future. Boom. There we go. All right. So AP, we got the heat map here. Talk about the heat map and how this can help.
Scroll down a little bit so we can see. So you can see here, I'm prioritizing, I like obviously Matherin up top. The game that we haven't talked about yet is I really want to prioritize Keontae George. And no, just scroll down.
Yeah.
And leave it on the bottom section, but leave it so that you can actually see, like pull up our screen so you can actually see more of the heat map. Like right now, I see the bottom part of Rumpier Sports.
That's all we got, buddy. Just go
scroll up a little bit. Hold. There you go. Right there. So yeah, you can see that top to bottom it's broken down by lock times, injury news there in each lock section. The pinkish color, obviously that's news that we're waiting on. Trey Murphy highlighted because, again, if Ingram gets ruled out, which I think there's a good possibility that he does, I upgrade Trey Murphy. I would also put like a core play tag, which is the bright green, on Zion Williamson. So it's an interactive thing. I'm borderline close to applying a core play tag on Jokic as well. And what do I mean by that? Those type of plays I want to have, here, the guide is up. It's between 45 and 85%. I think, with Jokic, and the reason why I don't have a core play tag on him right now is I think let's just say I get him at 35 to 45%, I think I'm fine with that allocation because, it looks like ownership is right around 20 to 25% on him. So as long as I'm 2 to 3x where the public's at, I'm pretty good with that number. But it is borderline, very close to being a core play.
All right, very good. It is. The heat map is the nuts. I love it. NFL, we got this. It's just absolutely terrific. Look at that. Steven loves your heat map too, AP.
There we go. Hey.
He's all over it.
I mean, look, like the purpose of it is we're all driven by, projections, optimizers, whatever, but some of us still hand build. I'm a very visual learner, and I like looking at the entire thing. And if you are a hand builder, I think it's a good tool to use. Or if you're limited on time, if you're just getting off work, you can pull it up and it's going to be reflected for what I'm playing. And I play pretty much every NBA slate. So you're basically getting what I'm trying to play as well.
All right, AP, while we're at it then, let's go to the last game. Hornets Jazz, 230.5 total here. LaMelo is out. We know Mark Williams, Otto Porter Jr., they're out as well. Little late night action tonight. Can I interest you in the Hornets and the Jazz? AP.
Yeah, I mean, this game is going to be one that you definitely want to prioritize. There's like Trey Mann and Keontae George. It's very rare. The other tool too is the flow chart. The top 2 point guard spots on the flow chart, which I'm looking at basically last 30 days of data. So it's kind of right there in the middle between recency and, medium term, from a time frame perspective. Trey Mann and Keontae George, top 2 flowchart spots. And actually, Schlong, Ben Simmons is in the number 3 spot. So I might have to reconsider him. And Halliburton's on there as well. But Keontae George, he's been really impressive. I was calling for him to start, to be a starter for quite some time, obviously. And they made that shift. And it's, in place of Chris Dunn, which is a good move. The other thing, too, about this game is pricing. I think Schlong alluded to this at the start of the show. It's just like Colin Sexton, 6,200. Jordan Clarkson, who has a really strong role off the bench and the positional flexibility. You can play him the shooting guard and small forward spot. He is 5,700 on DraftKings. For his role on this team, it's just too cheap. Bigs against the Hornets. That's been a thing for like years now. Walker Kessler is a starter, and he's 5,100. I think he's a phenomenal play on the slate. John Collins, 6,200. All of these guys, in my opinion, are very much in play, and I want to be overweight them. It's just I'm capping them to 3 max per team, and Keontae George, by far, my favorite on the Jazz side. And the Trey Mann has been incredible. Like, he has been so good. 45 piece against Atlanta. Obviously, the matchup was phenomenal. 31 against Indy, playing 33 minutes. So I like Trey Mann's role. You can make the case for Cody Martin as well. Pretty good flowchart spot. And then I have some interest in a couple bench pieces. Grant Williams, I like his role. I like these power forward types against the Jazz. And then Micic, 3,900. I think his usage in the spot off the bench against this Jazz team that plays with a ton of pace, especially that second unit that's being run by Jordan Clarkson, is playing with a ton of pace. I think he's a fringe value in large field tournaments at 3,900 that I think no one's going to play tonight, and I think he's very interesting.
All right, guys. Last one here, Schlong. Let's get to it. Any thoughts on Trey Mann? We got a Grant Williams question. So who are we liking from the late night game?
A lot of people.
Yeah.
The Jazz are too cheap.
Let's go, bro. I know Bryce is on this game with me.
the Jazz are too cheap. I would rate Clarkson as, I'm seeing him at like half the ownership of like Sexton and George. I would probably play them all pretty even. 3 max for me once again. Like I don't think it's to the point where you need to play more than that on a 10-game slate, but these guys are popping for me today. In order, I'd rate them Clarkson, George, Sexton. I really like Laurie, Walker Kessler, John Collins. I mean, all 6 are super playable. And then on the other side of the game, I think Grant Williams is a good play. You've seen him have a super high usage rate off the bench. And, we talked about like how fast that Utah second unit's running with Clarkson out there. So I think he's a really solid run back. Trey Mann fits the bill as well as a good play. And then I think Brandon Miller's being a little overbought right now personally, but I like Miles Bridges as like an off the wall stud. Like him and Laurie are going to come in super high or super low owned for like the amount of like upside they have at those prices.
All right, guys, we did it. I want to let everybody know up to lock. It'll be free tonight. You just got to go to playback.tv. You'll look for the Run Pure Sports channel, JSU, Big T, bring you up to lock there. They'll give you a little tutorial on Saber Sim, et cetera, et cetera. Usually I'm on Up to Lock, and that's our premium show where you can ask JSU, Big T. We've got JBC. Ask questions up to lock, help with the build, et cetera, breaking news and all that other stuff. All right, let's get to the plays of the day. Mr. 3-time world champion in the last 5 years. AP, maybe 4. Is it 3 championships in 4 years for the Chiefs or 3 out of 5?
Oh, I was like, me, I'm like, I haven't won shit. Like,
no, you haven't won.
Bryce has been the guy like winning 100K.
Yeah, how many is the Chiefs now? 3 and 4 or 3 and 5?
3 and what? 3? Yeah, 3 and 5.
All right, what's the play of the day?
Yeah, they're going to be a problem too. I mean, it's getting me excited over here, Holden. Thinking about Mahomes. Yeah, there's so many that we can go to. I can't guarantee this guy's going to be in my core, but I think in large field tournaments, I think he's a really, really strong play tonight. I think Ivaka Zubac, 5,400. Love this matchup. They're going to need size against OKC. I just think, we have Jokic, we have Walker Kessler, 2 guys I obviously really like, Miles Turner, Jalen Duren. There's a lot of really strong center spots, even Marvin Bagley. I think Zubac just flies under the radar. And at the end of the night, he can rack up, blocks, steals, double-double. I think he could put up like 38, at this price in this matchup. So Zubac definitely sold in large field tournaments to get overweight on.
All right, what do we got for the Schlong play of the day?
Jordan Clarkson. Love this late game.
All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go Zion Williamson just because you said he's fat.
Love it.
I like big butts, and I cannot lie. Playback.tv, Big T, JSU, up to lock, RPS 15. 15% off your first payment for a subscription for Schlong and AP. I'm Holden. Thanks for checking us out today. Keep running pure.